Hey, this is Tara Pritchett, Confidence Coach for Women, and I'm excited. Welcome to Crowned. I should have my crown out right now, but welcome to Crowned, How to Awaken the Queen that is inside of you. So I'm excited because this is a topic that I absolutely love, and I think that you're going to find it very valuable on tonight. So I know people are going to be hopping on, whether you can see 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 or an hour of this. I do ask that you make sure that you share this live, but I also ask that you leave me comments as well, even if I have to come back later. My hope is that you will have the opportunity to add some comments down here for me on tonight. I think I hit the wrong button there. Welcome. I see people are hopping in. I know there are going to be ladies who are joining that I already know. But I also know that there are going to be some new women who are joining me as well. So I look forward to that. For any ladies who's watching this and you are new to me, I am Tara Pritchett, Confidence Coach for Women. Hey, and I am a confidence coach who absolutely loves helping women heal, evolve, and grow so that they can live the life that they love, but they can also manifest purpose, that they can manifest the destinies that God has set out for them. So welcome, welcome, welcome. As people show up, as people join, I'm excited. So in terms of how our topic came about today, as we are nearing the end of 2018, we have about almost 60 days left because November 1st is approaching very, very quickly. This is about the time of year where everybody starts to get into the mode of reflecting as we get into November, and then as we get into December. Obviously, it's the holidays and we want to enjoy ourselves, but the holidays are also the perfect time to remind you of obviously all of the blessings that you have in your life. But the holidays and a new year, and even if you have a birthday or some type of anniversary coming up in these last couple of months, because I know I do, November 21st, whoop whoop, Scorpio season is here. It is the perfect time of year that as women, we begin to think about not only the things that we're blessed with, but we also start to think about the things that we have not accomplished, or we still do not have, or while we're still not as far along as we desire and deserve to be. So as we begin to hit the last 60 days of this year, it becomes more prominent in our mind and in our mindset what we haven't achieved or accomplished, or all the weight that we've gained this year, all of the dates we have went on or we haven't went on, the struggles that we have endured over the course of this year or the last couple of years, right? All of those things start rushing up in your mind. And then as you start to get around family more for holidays, if there are any unresolved issues or any patterns or any generational cycles that pass themselves down that you've been trying to get away from, or maybe they've just become more clear to you, especially if you just went through my last challenge, then those things start to be in the back of your mindset. And it makes it even more crucial for you to go through the process of healing, evolving, and growing, or to continue that process and that journey as you continue on. So that's why today I want to talk about this idea of being crowned. I want to talk about this idea of you being a queen, right? And having an empire and sitting on a throne and having this crown, right? We're going to use our crown as a symbolic means to understanding and unpacking as we get to that end of that year, and we'll begin the process of starting a new one, right? Because again, when a new year hits, we're all thinking new me, right? It's new year, new you, right? That's always what people think. People are trying to set resolutions, which I don't believe in, and that a lot of people don't, or they're trying to focus on what goals that they're going to accomplish that they didn't already accomplish. But when it comes to the goal setting process, it doesn't matter what you write down on paper, what you think in your mind. If you have not healed any spaces or places in your life that could be blocking you from something, right? If there's something that's unresolved that has already been revealed to you, and you haven't put any time, money, or energy behind actually working towards that thing, then it's going to be very challenging for you once you get to 2019 to lose that weight if you're only looking at it as a physical issue. The same thing is true if you're trying to manifest love and you're only looking at love on the surface level of, all the men out here are X, Y, and Z. I can't date them. I can't fool with them. You're only looking at it on the surface or the physical level. right? The same is true if you are struggling with your purpose and you're only looking at it from a comparison standpoint, or you think, oh, everybody else online is, winning, or so and so, she has already started her X, Y, and Z candle business, so I couldn't possibly start my candle business too. Again, that's very surface level. And if you continue to live your life and try to manifest things from the surface level, then you're going to continue to struggle until you recognize that the things that you most desire, it is a holistic approach that you must take. And the thing is, a queen understands that, and a queen knows that it is also your emotional, spiritual, and mental, honestly, it weighs much more when it comes to manifesting that purpose, or manifesting that money, or that relationship, or whatever it is that you want, or whatever it is that you desire to bring forth into your life, right? And again, a queen understands that, because a queen knows how to wear her crown on a day by day basis. And when it comes to even building some type of queendom or some type of empire in terms of purpose, that becomes even more apparent. Because if you really want to have the greatest form of personal development, then you will start building your own empire. And when you start building your own empire, you're going to be tested in ways you've never even imagined, because you're going to have to step into the fullness of who you really actually are, right? Which takes a lot of hard work, and it's not for the faint of heart. So everybody's not cut out to build their own empire, contrary to popular belief, right? I feel like everybody spits that out online all the time. Oh, you need to quit your job. Oh, you need to build a business. No, that is not for everybody. Everybody can't build an empire. But for those who can, you need to be equipped, and you need to be empowered, and you need to be educated on the proper tools necessary in order to make that happen. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go into this idea of wearing your crown. Because like I said, not only are we starting to near the end of the year where we start thinking about these things more frequently, it's also a time and a space where a lot of women, especially as I talk to them individually or one-on-one, feel like they're kind of lost. They feel like they have kind of given up in many ways, just because maybe this year hasn't gone the way that they desired. Or say they went through one of my challenges and one of my activities has asked them to dig up something that's old, and they're just sick and tired. They're sick and tired of, doing the healing work, or they're sick and tired of dealing with the same thing over and over and over again. And they're just sick and tired of being in the place where they are, right? Can anybody else relate to that? Where you may have given up hope, right? Where you feel like you might have forgotten who you are, or you might be a little bit lost where you are. And right, like I want to mention, a queen knows exactly who she is. She knows who she is, and she knows why she is here. And she knows that wearing that crown is something that she must do on a day-by-day basis in order for her to continue on. And I'm not saying every day is going to be positive and amazing and I was about to say guns. I mean flowers and roses. I'm not saying that. But a queen does understand that there are things that you have to have in place, things that you have to have established, right, in your life in order for it to flow, and in order for you to surrender to the divine flow that is all up and down and around you, right? So let's get into this idea of what it means to be crowned, right, as a queen, right? And I have my acronym. Y'all know I like my acronyms, right? So the C in my acronym is this, right? And it is having the courage to accept the calling that is on your life. So the C is have the courage to accept the calling that is on your life. And if you have pen and paper, if you've ever been to any of my master classes, I'm not just talking about just a Facebook Live, but a master class that I've done before, women walk away with multiple pages of notes, right? So I am going to give you an acronym. If you want to reflect on it later, please feel free to do so. Hold on, this is really driving me nuts. That this is white and not pink behind me. So, hey, how are you, right? So here's the thing, right? When it comes to being a queen and establishing your queendom, right, which is separate, it is a little bit separate from building your own empire. But having your own queendom is like having your own domain. Think of your queendom as your life, right? And you are the one, you're the ruler, you're the one that's in charge. So the people that are in the queen's court, right, they matter. Who you decide and who you choose, not saying you're waiting to be chosen, but who you choose to be a king also matters. Who you choose to have all up inside of your queendom That absolutely matters. Who you select to be your counsel, as in your friends, your mentors, your accountability partners, all of those people matter, right? And here's the other thing. Being a queen not only means that you're the ruler, but you're also the strategist. So if there is a battle that is going to come, who is going to be the one that determines how that strategy is going to work out? That is going to be you. And in order for you to be positioned, in order for you to be prepared for anything that life throws your way, because life throws you all types of things. Life throws you lemons, but life also throws you lemonade. Things can be very sweet sometimes. The other times things can be very bitter. And before I go back to my crown, I just want to say this, because I just came from an event that was all about reducing your risk for breast cancer. When I tell you I walked out of there inspired, I was inspired, right? And I was also kind of empowered. I would almost say kind of empowered. I was very much empowered to be, I didn't know the whole time that I'm sitting there, I'm sitting next to a 5-time survivor of breast cancer, right? She had breasts in her breast. She found lumps 3 times. In her pelvis, she found lumps twice. The lumps in her pelvis, when they actually went in and opened them and examined them over months, they realized that it was breast cancer in her pelvis 5 times, right? And I was like, wow. And I didn't know I was sitting next to her like the entire time that I was sitting in there. And you know what she said? She said that I'm a fighter. And that's the one thing that every survivor that was there said, that I'm a fighter. And she said, the day that I feel like I want to give up the fight is the day that I feel like I will never win. And she says, I've been dealing with this for the last 30 years, right? That's a queen. That is absolutely a queen in so many ways, once you'll see, once I go through what I mean by wearing that crown on a daily basis. But the fact that she said that I'm going to continue to fight, because she could have gave up a lot of times, right? And there are some of us who've never even experienced anything close to that. And there are some of us who've had our own traumatic experience, whether it be divorce, whether it be breakups, whether it be something health related, whether you are a breast cancer survivor, or like my girl Nicole Surrett likes to say, thriver. She always says, I'm a breast cancer thriver. And I love that, because it takes you from survival mode to actually thriving and living and loving, right? And again, that is what queens do. They take things that are given to them and they turn them into stories, right? And experiences that they can share with others to help others heal, to evolve, and to grow, which is the beautiful thing about this journey, right? And so the reason why I brought them up is because they kept emphasizing the fighter part. I know you've probably seen a lot of breast cancer stuff, and it has, you know, the gloves, like they're fighting this thing. But in addition to the breast cancer, that's very similar to how it is in life, because you're constantly going to be tested over and over again. The more you step into your queendom and really come into your own, the more the tests are going to come. If you're not being tested, if you don't have struggles, then please don't talk to me. I tell my students this all the time, because they're so afraid to fail. They're so afraid I'm going to take points off. And if they don't have 100%, they're like losing their mind. And I'm like, if that's all you're worried about, please get out of my class. I don't tell them that, but that's what I'm thinking. Because life is there are so many trials that are going to pop up, both very, very small, and they could be very, very big, like those women that I listened to tonight who got their breast cancer diagnosis in so many of the most unique ways, but also some of the most divine ways. One woman got her diagnosis because her son went away to college and left her with his dog. And the dog would constantly jump up on her right breast all the time. And she thought something was wrong with the dog. So she went to get him checked. She went to get him trained. But one day he jumped up and he hit like a lump on her breast, and she found it. And then another woman, right, who says she's a 1-year survivor of breast cancer, she had a baby, and at 6 months into it, she noticed that her daughter would never ever want to drink milk out of one of her breasts, right? And she said she didn't think anything of it. She just thought, oh, she just don't like, like that side. But long story short, she finally eventually recognized that she had breast cancer on that right side, right? So the reason why I'm saying this is divine in a way, even though I know cancer sucks. I hate cancer. I'm sure you do as well. But one of the speakers brought up, the one who had the dog, that it was divinely orchestrated. That was her belief, right? It was all about her mindset, that it was divinely orchestrated for it to occur that way, for her son to go away to college, for her to get the dog, for the dog to help her find it. Even for her, she said, to be standing there in that very moment, sharing her story. And as I mentioned earlier, that is what queens do. Because your crown, right? If you've ever seen the top of a crown, it's a little pointy at the top, right? It's got its little points on it, right? Which could be hard, or I guess you could say it could be dangerous. But that's what it means really to be a queen. That's what it really means to be a woman of purpose, to be a fierce woman, right? You don't become a fierce woman by living an easy life where everything is easy breezy, and everything flows and goes, and you have the best upbringing, and you have the best husband, and you have this and you have that. That's not necessarily how this thing goes, right? And like I mentioned earlier with my students, when they're scared of failure or they're scared for something to be wrong, the only way that you heal, you evolve, and you grow, especially growing, is if there is a test, or if there is a trial, or if there's something that comes up that seeks to, shift or change or distract or detour or delay where you are, right? Because as a fierce, confident, and powerful woman, as a queen, it's important that you have the proper strategy so that you're able to handle the battles that come up. It's one thing as a queen to live an amazing life, which you will, and host big feasts, right? And again, I'm speaking metaphorically here. To host grand feasts and to dress up and to be beautiful on the outside and radiant and all of that. But it's another thing that when a battle does approach, that you know how to handle those things. So it's important that you have both, right? You want to be fly, but you also want to be fierce as a queen, right? So let's get into the crown. I know I just added some stuff in. It wasn't originally, right? I just felt that in my heart that I needed to share that, and that for somebody that will be helpful. But I want to get into the crown now, right? As I mentioned earlier, when it comes to, like I said, your queendom, I want to get into the C. So again, if you have paper, now would be that time. So the C is the courage. Oh, thank you. The C is the courage to accept the calling. And I discussed this in my book because this is my first chapter. And I talk about, even in my book, how I've heard many times, or I felt many times, that I was being called for more, right? I was being called to step up. I was being called, to start my business. I was being called to do more with my relationships. I was called to do more when it came to my health. And I kind of document that as far as I'm concerned in my book. But I feel like, and I know I'm not the only one, that we hear these things, we feel these things, we feel God saying you need to leave that relationship. We know it in our hearts, and what we call that's intuition, right? That's our gift of second sight, and we can feel it as women. We have our intuition, but we feel those callings that it's time for me to lose weight. You feel the calling that it's time for me to move on from this job. You feel this calling that I need to get my ish together. You feel this calling that you need to do whatever the case may be. Like, you're trying to hold on to something, but God is like, oh, I'm trying to move you in this different direction. But so often we don't want to answer that thing that God's calling us to. And if you really want to position yourself to step fully into your queendom, and when I say fully into your queendom, I mean really fulfilling your God-given potential. I mean really walking in purpose. I mean really radiating when you walk in that room. Oh, she said, "I'm should amen," right? So that's what I mean by really standing in your power as a queen, really standing with that crown on, right? We're not just talking about a pageant crown, right? Or a Tyler and Tiara crown. I mean, really standing in that thing as a woman. It's so important to have the courage to accept the calling. So I want you to start thinking about, even this year, the last couple of years, what has God really been calling you to do that you still have not done? Has he been calling you to leave a relationship? Has he been calling you to move to another state? Has he been calling you to really step into purpose and take over that church? Or what has he been what calling has he put on your life? Because that is always going to be the first step. And a queen, a woman that's a queen, she's powerful, she's fierce. She can stand in that, and she can make that decision, even if she's afraid, even if she's scared, even if she don't know what she's doing. What has he been calling you to do? And maybe you don't want to think about it right now, but even once this is over, I encourage you to take a couple minutes, sit down and start writing that out. I can guarantee you that every single woman that is watching this has been called to do something that she has not already started putting movement towards, right? It could have been starting that business. It could have been speaking on that platform. I don't know. It could have been helping out that lady down the street. It could be something very small. It don't gotta be. You don't gotta be Oprah on them. Like you're supposed to be at the Academy Awards or something. I ain't saying all that. But what have you been called to do that you have been denying yourself of? That you have, because so often we feel like, oh, God's delaying us, but a lot of times God's really waiting on you to actually do something to move into that direction. So, what is the calling that you have received? It could even be a calling to step more into your fierceness or more into your power. It could be the calling to heal that thing that you've been dealing with since you was a little girl, but you really don't want to go back to that moment and deal with that thing. So again, the C for your crown, as you got to have the courage to accept the calling. And here's the thing, there is a cost to accepting the calling. Why? Why is there a cost to accept the calling? Because it goes into my R. And my R for crown is this. Because in order for you really to be a queen, you have to learn, accept, and surrender to reposition yourself to do things the way God wants you to do them. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back. The reason why having the courage to accept the calling to become the queen, to become the fiercest queen that you can be, is because you have to learn how to reposition yourself for God's will. That means doing what He wants you to do, not doing what you want to do or what feels good to you. That means if He's saying, I need you to leave that relationship because I have something else for you, that is His will. You might be like, oh, I love Him. I want to be here. This is all me, yada, yada, yada. But His will could be something else. Right? So that's the hard part, because there's a cost that comes with the calling. So if God is like, I really want you to rise up in purpose and I really want you to do X, Y, and Z, that means that you're going to have to give something up that you're holding on to, that you might have been carrying for the last 20 years. But you've been refusing, you've been resisting. You've been resisting doing the very thing that you need to do. Let me speak on it, okay? Because I've done it. I do it all the time. I just had a conversation with God about this like 2 days ago about resistance for myself when it comes to relationships. I'm like, okay, God, what you trying to say, right? About resistance, right? Because we can resist out of fear, right? We're afraid or we're anxious. We don't know what's going to be on the other side. We don't want to move. But here's the thing. A queen has one of the key principles that a queen must have is she has to have courage, number one. But she also got to be into that intuition, because you got to be able to feel it inside of you that you got to make movement, that you got to push yourself out of your comfort zone, which is not always easy. So again, the C for your crown is having the courage to accept the calling. But the reason why you need courage is because there's a cost to the calling. There is a cost. You got to give something up. Right? Just like when Jesus had to get on that cross, there was a cost. There's a cost, right, that you have to pay. Yes, it is very unpredictable. That's why you got to have faith, right? So the C is the courage to accept the calling. The R is to reposition yourself for God's will. A queen, that's what she does. Because every decision that a queen makes might not always make sense to everyone else around her. But that's because she is probably walking in what she's been intuitively feeling. And in order to do that, you got to learn how to separate yourself from the crowd. That means you don't run your business like everybody else runs their business, right? That means that you don't have your relationship, you as a wife is not how everybody else is as a wife. So when people like, oh, y'all split your money like that, or, oh, y'all do that, that don't got nothing to do with you. Because a queen, you're in a different flow. Right? Or if everybody in our business, oh, I'm doing 6 figures and all this, or I'm doing this, or I'm constantly doing that, and everybody else is doing this one way, but you find something else that works for you. That's what a queen does, right? Because when you reposition yourself for God's will and with God's way, if God is intuitively leading you to do X, Y, and Z, that's what it is that you do, right? Even if it's unpredictable, even if it's uncertain, even if you're unsure, right? If you can lean into God and allow Him to move you and guide you and direct you, that's not always going to feel good. because you're not always going to know, right? But that's why queens navigate those things. That's why it's important as a queen, right? That's why it's important to have a counsel as a queen. Who is that support system that is around you? Is that your pastor? Is that your coach? Is that your therapist? Is that your good girlfriend that you can trust, that you can go to? Because it's not always easy to trust the plan, right? I see God's plan. It's not always easy to trust the plan, right? Which we all know. That's why you need somebody to speak into you, right? Like I said, tonight I went to 2 events, but at the breast cancer event I went to, right, I'm always teaching. I'm also helping others heal. As I mentioned I went live the other day. I had 4 people come to me just last week, bursting in tears. Students, parents. I had parent-teacher conferences. The little girl came in with a C. The mom, out of nowhere, we had like a good conference. Everything's good. Mom just bust out crying. But little mom doesn't know. She is the 4th person that week who's in my presence and crying. For me, I take note of those patterns, right? I take note of things that repeat themselves. So why is it that this week you are the 4th individual who found it safe, comfortable, and okay to come to me in crisis, or to come to me to cry, right? That's because she felt safe, she felt comfortable in that moment to release and to let that out with me, right? And that was my last person that did that. But all the people, she doesn't know all the people that came before her, right in front of me. And I'm assuming, and all those other people that came to me, they didn't have counsel in their life, right? And one was a male, and he didn't have counsel. And he said he came to me because he said, I had you before as a teacher, and I know I can't talk to anybody else that's here, but I know that you make it safe for me. And I know, and he didn't say, I know that you're a healer, or I know that I feel safe, but something intuitively, he was on his way down to the guidance office, but he stopped at my room along the way. He didn't have to. He could have kept going. But he knew something intuitively led him there, because it's so important to have counsel. And he said, I don't feel comfortable talking to anybody else in here but you. And I said, okay, but I got to bring other people into the fold, because he needed help beyond what I can do, beyond what I'm trained to do. But I also know what I've been called to do. So it's very important to have counsel. I say all this to say that a lot of those people came to me because they didn't feel like they had counsel around themselves. And a queen, she has counsel around her. And if maybe you don't have those friends or those family members, but that doesn't mean you can't go to a therapist. I was out tonight and there was a Black woman therapist there, and I'm like, I might need to check her out, right? And she was talking about, in terms of cancer, a lot of people don't realize, everybody thinks it's so physical, right? Obviously, it's a physical thing that's attacking people's bodies, but people don't realize that there's a lot of financial, emotional, mental, spiritual challenges that you feel during that time, or during any time in your life where something is there and it is erupting and it is taken away from what you usually do. So she was saying to seek counsel. Come take therapy with her. Call her in during that time, because she knows that people are struggling. Be in their safe place in the school. Oh, I know. And I always think about that, Tara, when I think about moving on from the school, right? And this year alone really has solidified that for me, because who's going to be that safe space for those students if I'm not there, right? So that's absolutely something I think about all the time. And that actually, I would actually say that's something that I used to be very afraid of, is considering moving from the teaching profession. I think I felt very guilty about that. And as a result of me feeling guilty about that, I would play small. So even though I will hear God calling me to, show up more on Facebook Live, or do this with my business, or do that, I'll be like, oh, I don't know if I have time for that. I don't know if I should do that, because I didn't want to fully own, right, which is actually the O for crown, which we'll get to in a second, own that part of myself fully. So I kind of shrank my gift a little bit, when it came to being a healer, and came to being a confidence coach and things like that, because I thought that by me stepping fully into this part of my gifting, that I would be doing a disservice to my students, right? So I would shrink myself. And at that time, I wasn't a queen just yet. I was a queen in training. I would shrink myself a little bit. because I felt as though if this actually does move in God's favor and I'm actually moving in this direction, then somehow I feel like I'm betraying them or I'm leaving them behind. Which is a personal struggle that I felt, because then who's in that school? There's really no one else in my school that looks like me, that acts like me. I'm one of the youngest, most diverse staff members. So who would be there to present that to them? Which brings me up to my O. So if you have to have the courage to accept the calling, right, which I went on that journey myself, which means giving God that yes. So yes, God, I surrender to this purpose. Yes, God, I surrender my love life to you. Yes, God, I surrender my finances to you. I think we get scared as well because like Tara, I think, mentioned earlier, there's a lot of uncertainty. I think we always think something bad is going to happen when we surrender something or we accept that calling, and then we reposition ourselves to do things the way that God wants us to do, to move and navigate in that way. I think we get scared because we think it'll be something negative. At least that's what I thought when it came to me in terms of teaching and moving away from it. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Or even when I thought about, moving out from home, I'm like, oh my God, is something going to happen like to my mom? Like, I feel like something negative is going to happen as well when you shift or you move. And we have to start to learn, right, that is just negative thoughts popping up in our mind that are seeking to hold us back. It's a distraction, right, that allows us to play small and allows us to shrink. And the thing about it is, you cannot be a queen thinking like a peasant. You cannot be a queen thinking like a peasant, living in fear, living in uncertainty, living in blame or shame either. Right? So again, the courage to accept the calling. The R is to reposition yourself for God's will. The O is to own all parts of yourself, which I was mentioning earlier when Tara brought up that comment. I can be a little bit more transparent on this side. Oh, laugh out loud. Yes, you can. And for my students who have graduated, I can be so much more transparent with them. It is such a beautiful thing that to be more transparent and authentic with them. I went and visited some of them a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, oh my God, they think they're grown. They've been out of school like a couple months. They think they're grown. But I agree with you to be more transparent with them. And speaking of being transparent, that goes with the O, is owning all parts of yourself, right? A queen knows she ain't perfect. She knows she's not perfect. Even when she's surrendering, she's accepting the calling, she's living for God or whatever higher power you believe in. Knowing that you're not perfect, that's the key number one. It's accepting the good, the bad, and the ugly parts of yourself, right? I know that I can get an attitude sometimes. I know that about myself. And I would be dumb not to recognize that, or not to check myself if I get into that space where I recognize that part of me is coming out. Right? But I also love that part of myself, because that part of myself comes in handy sometimes. I think sometimes we don't realize the very parts of ourselves that people bullied us for, the very parts of ourselves where we feel misunderstood, the very parts of ourselves that we're not always proud of. That in some, I know it seems strange, mysterious way, that all of those things are on purpose, that God has gifted you, and I'm going to say gifted on purpose, gifted you with certain things to help you survive or thrive, where you're born, your environment that you're in. But also, I do believe that a lot of those things are tied to purpose and they're tied to destiny. So even though I know that I can get a little attitude, and then if you look at my eyebrows, a lot of people say that I look so mean. I look so mean. But guess what? Growing up in a city, okay, and according to news reports, one of the deadliest cities in the world, I used to do public transportation all the time. And I'm kind of cute. So people would approach me all the time. And I always say to myself, even though I know I can get people to eye and I can get smart very quickly, probably because I'm a Scorpio, I always say that was a gift from God, because you know how many people used to approach me when I used to be on public transportation or I'm walking home. I had somebody when I was 14. I got off the school bus. Some guy tried to say he wanted to take me on a date or something. Look, them eyebrows and this mouth, that helped me out on that day. But now, has that gotten me in trouble in other spaces or places? Yeah. But that's not the point, right? But I love and accept the fullness of who I am. I know that's a part of who I am. But I also know God gave it to me for a reason. And I always say I appreciate it so. I always say, God, I'm so grateful. Because if I didn't, I would be in certain spaces and places where I would be afraid to speak up, right? If I didn't already own that part of myself. And that's what a queen does. She owns those part of herself. There's nobody that rules over their own domain or queendom who doesn't have quirks about them, who, like I said, hasn't made decisions that they're not proud of, who doesn't have parts of themselves that don't always feel good, or that other people haven't brought up as something that they might have an issue with, right? Um, I know my mom was saying the other day that whenever I say, "Oh, that's so adorable," she always says that I sound so fake when I say that, and I'm like, "What?" Maybe I do, but for me, it's just a natural part of who I am. Even though she's like, "Oh, that sounds fake," but for me, I own that part of myself. Maybe it sounds fake to you, but it's very authentically true for me. I do think a lot of things are adorable. I like doing my little voices and all that kind. That's just me. And you can even ask my students. I look at school. I'm an actor. I'm a doctor. I'm a nurse. I'm a therapist. I play a lot of different roles and a lot of different parts. So for me personally, I have to own all the different parts of myself. Now, have I always owned the different parts? No. I haven't always owned those parts of myself, and have you? Absolutely not. Because in our society, we are told that we got to fit into these little holes, into these little spaces, right? So as a woman, we're told I have to look like this. I have to do this. If you're an African American woman or a Latino woman or a white woman, whatever the case may be, there are these little holes that you're supposed to fit into, or these little boxes you're supposed to check off, in order for you to fit into these little parameters. Even when it comes to how we talk, right? You got to talk a certain way, right? You got to code switch. That's another one that people be coming at me for, because sometimes my students don't get when I'm with them. Sometimes I can be a little bit more relaxed, but if I'm talking to a coworker, especially one that I'm not really deeply connected to, then I don't talk in the same way, right? I don't talk in the same way to my mom that I talk to my coworker, that I talk to a child, that I talk when I'm on live, that I talk when I'm speaking. And everybody doesn't always understand that, but that's owning all of the parts of yourself. Only when you're able to own all the parts of yourself and see that they are integrated, and you integrate all those together, is how you get to a place of wholeness. That includes the little girl that's inside of you, right? You never want to lose sight of her, the little girl that is inside of you. That's why it's so important to heal her, right? And to connect her with now your older, wiser self. There should be a connection, because the wildness, right? And the innocence and the beauty and the brilliance and the freedom and the creativity that came with your little girl, she's childlike. And if you go back to our repositioning yourself for God's will, God is like your father. You want to be able to come to him like a little girl, like a little child, right? Almost like he's your dad, who is there to cover you, to protect you, to take care of you, even if you haven't always felt like that has necessarily been the case for you. You never want to lose that part, because when you're able to integrate that healed little girl with that older, wiser woman, and you guys come together, you experience life. You're now intuitive, and you're courageous, and you're free, and you're powerful, and you're fierce. But you also have a beauty to you, right? Or a cuteness that can only come from being a little girl. There's an innocence that's still there to you. There's a freedom. When you're little, you're young, you're wild, you're free, and you see life in the most beautiful way, right? Until we start having experiences and people who show up that shift and change those perceptions. But you never want to lose sight of that, because you don't want to stop dreaming. Even as a queen, you don't want to stop dreaming. You don't want to give up on your vision. You don't want to give up the idea that there are still good people in the world, and that there's still goodness in the world. When you're younger and you do have that traumatic experience, that's when you learn that there's evil in the world or negativity. But you have to recognize that even when it comes to you aligning your relationship with God as well, that everything that is divine is not just heaven and clouds and roses and amazing, right? There's a contrast. There's lightness and there's darkness. There's good and there's evil in the world. And there's always going to be that dichotomy that's going on. But as a queen, your job is to know how to navigate that. There's always going to be lemon and lemonade. That's always going to be the case. And understanding that and knowing that allows you to perceive the way life works in a whole different way. That's why it's important to own all of the parts of yourself. Integrate that little girl with who you are now. Right? And I hope that you have conversations with that little girl. And for those that participated in the challenge at the very end, I sent you an audio, and I looked at that audio. I don't know who been listening to, I don't know. I don't know who been listening to it. Somebody done listened to it a number of times. But I'm like, whoa, so many people have listened to that audio, because it shows me how many times people are going back to it. And I just went back to it the other day, right? Because you want to utilize it. Basically what I do, it's a guided meditation that takes you back to, kind of guide you to go back to a moment as a little girl, where you feel as though maybe it was a moment you were traumatized. There's an experience that you have that still has a negative lasting impact on you, right? And I did it the other day when I mentioned at the start of this, where I felt God drop to me this idea of my resistance with things. And I spent like 2 hours doing that guided meditation on multiple different experiences. They weren't all like super traumatic, but just different experiences I had that I felt like were connected to that resistance that I felt. And I kept going back and going back and going back, and healing and evolving and resolving those things to push myself forward in a new way, right? Because I was tired of being in the space of resistance. Once I recognized that that's what it is that I had been experiencing in a certain area of my life, and saw how it was connected, right? But I own that. Yes, I am resistant in that area, but I own that, and that's super important as a queen to own, right? Take full ownership of the fact that you have that attitude, of the fact that you act a certain kind of way, of the fact that you do X, Y, and Z, whether it's the good part of you or the bad part, or it could be a little ugly, but owning that and knowing that. If you own that and know that, what someone else says doesn't even matter. Sorry. It doesn't even matter. Right? Because people will kind of try to come and throw stones at you. They will come and try to throw stones at you. But guess what? It won't matter, because you've already owned, okay, that's who I am. That's what I did. I went to the breast cancer event. Then I went to the debate, right? It is election season. Please make sure you vote November 6th. And I went to an attorney general debate. One person that's running used to be a convicted felon. And he owns that. That's one thing I absolutely loved about listening to him, despite the fact that he's interesting, is that he's running for attorney general. And one of his key messages was this: the reason why you need to vote for me is not because I'm this or I'm that. He said it's because I've been through the system that I want to support and help and shift and change. And he said, I am a convicted felon. Who better to become your next attorney general than somebody who's been a felon, who's been through this process, who shifted and changed, evolved and grown, who now understands what it's like, because I've actually walked the walk. I've actually walked through this system that I recognize is seeking to hold people back in these particular ways. The reason why I love what he said, whether I like everything else he said or not, is because he took ownership of it. Because he could have ran for this position, and then you know how we see all the commercials, oh, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that. Somebody else is not telling your story. He sat there face to face with us in the room and said, this is who I am. This is who I am. I ain't coming to you saying I'm perfect. I'm coming to you, yes, I am a convicted felon, but I'm also this, and this. So he took something that could have been detrimental and he redefined it for himself. And that is what a queen does, right? That's what it means to wear your crown. Because if not, your crown going to be tipped over. Your crown going to be falling over this first time somebody tries to throw shots at you and say something, because you don't have it upright, because you haven't fully owned all parts of yourself. You're not going to be seated like this. That thing going to be tipped over. Right? Because you're going to feel like somebody's constantly throwing stones at you, right? And if we go back to the Bible, you think about the woman who committed adultery, right? Who was caught committing adultery, and they all wanted to stone her, right? I tell the story all the time because it's one of my favorite stories in the Bible. And they all wanted to stone her, and then Jesus showed up like, hold up, pause. Y'all ain't about to stone her, right? But that's not what he said. What he actually said was, whoever has never sinned before can be the first person to throw a stone at her. And then everybody got quiet and everybody backed up with their stones. Ain't nobody throw nothing. Why? Because everybody has their own sins. Everybody has their own flaws. Everybody has their good, their bad, their ugly. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has parts of their story they ain't feeling, they don't like, that they're not proud of, things that they've done that they're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have did that, but I did that. right? Everybody does. So nobody is exempt from not having a story to tell. What's most important is owning that story and owning that part of yourself, right? Everybody falls short. Yes, everybody does. We are human. That is a part of our experience. That is a part of why we are here, to grow through those things so that we can move into new spaces, right? Which is going to bring me up to my W in C.R.O.W.N, is working on inner healing, right? If you know that there are parts of yourself, right, that might not be favorable, right, by the people who are in your queendom, that are in your life, that are around you. If you know there are things that you need to work on yourself, then the W is key. A queen knows, right, that she needs to do some inner healing work. So if we go back to when I started this, I was talking about the fact that as we move into the end of this year, as we start to move into starting a new year, this is the prime time where you're going to be reflecting on what you've done, what you haven't done, what you're still working on. And I guarantee you that there is some goal that you wanted to achieve this year, or that you hope to achieve next year, that is going to require you to do some level of inner healing work. Whether that means you got to show up differently in the world, whether that means you have to open your mouth more and start speaking more, whether that means you have to put yourself out there more because you want to start dating again, whether that means that you have to step to your boss and say X, Y, and Z. Whatever the case may be, whatever it is your goal. Everybody has their own goal. I guarantee you that inner healing work is going to be a part of the process that you need to go through in order to get you to the other side, right? Because there's absolutely no journey or no season that God's going to take you through that's not going to require you to do some type of inner healing work, right? And the stages of inner healing are elimination, preparation, and manifestation. So elimination, preparation, and manifestation. There's going to be a death. There's going to be a rebirth. There's going to be a resurrection, right? There's absolutely no season you're going to go to. Whatever it is you're trying to get, even if you're trying to lose weight, there's going to have to be a death to the old you that's always eating everything, or that's emotionally eating. There's going to have to be an elimination. Excuse me. And then there's going to have to be a preparation phase. And then you're going to manifest that new body and that new health. But I guarantee you, you ain't never going to get to whatever it is you're trying to get to by the end of this year and the beginning of next year, or by this time next year. There is absolutely no way that you're going to achieve that thing without going through the process, right? And I was telling my students about this because a lot of the texts that we've read so far this year, that is a theme, right? The rebirth, the resurrection, because that's an archetype in literature. So they're like, oh, I don't like that elimination phase, right? They're like, oh, I don't like this whole death thing, right? But here's the thing. I wish somebody would have told me that when I was 17 or 18 years old. I wish somebody told me about elimination, preparation, manifestation, because I would have navigated things so very differently if I had known that early on. But no goal that you set for yourself will be achieved without going through the process. And again, so many times we want to skip the process so that we can get to the promise. You don't become queen by skipping through the process. And just becoming queen and getting crowned. No, you got to go through the whole phase. You get to have the courage to accept the calling. You got to reposition yourself for God's will. You got to own all the parts of yourself. And then you got to do the work on the inner healing in order for you to move into the next phase of your queendom. In order for you to be positioned for when a battle is going to show up. Right? And I'll say I will pray that it doesn't, but that's not the way life works. Something is bound to show up when you're making those moves. When you're doing the inner healing work, something is bound to show up to test you or to distract you or to delay you or detour you from where you're going, right? Because believe it or not, everybody doesn't want to see you win. Everybody doesn't want to see your queendom thrive. Everybody don't want that crown. Some people want to knock that crown off your head. Why? Because they could be jealous, right? They could be envious. Right? Because they don't get, why do you get to have the happily ever after? Why does your queendom get to thrive, but they're struggling? What was I watching the other day? Greenleaf. I always talk about Green. I was watching Greenleaf, and one of the characters, her dad has said that, he saw her, and she looked unhappy, and he was like, why do you look so unhappy? And she said, because I just don't understand. This is Charity on Greenleaf. She said, I don't understand why everybody else, including her ex-husband, who is now gay And he has a whole new man. They about to get married. They about to buy a house. She said, I just don't understand why everybody else is, getting married, getting a house, moving forward. And she said, I'm sitting here by myself. I'm sitting here and I'm this and I'm this and I'm that. Right? Feeling sorry for herself. Right? So looking a little pitiful in a way, right? You can be pitiful or you can be powerful. You can be pitiful or you can be powerful, right? Not recognizing you're in charge of this domain. You're in charge of this queendom. So in that moment and most of the season, her crown has been knocked off. And she's having a hard time putting her crown back on. But if she went through these steps, she would find that it's very easy for her to get to whatever her happy ever after is, or her dream life is, or whatever the case may be. But because she's so stuck on what everybody else is doing and what it is that she's lacking and what she does not have, because she thinks I'm not enough, I'm lacking something, something's wrong with me. Right? Sound familiar? That's keeping her stuck. Right? So she's thinking like a peasant, and she's like, I don't understand when everybody keeps moving on, because you're not thinking like a queen. You're not positioning yourself in the right way. And that means working on that inner healing work. It means looking inward instead of looking at everybody else thinking, that's my competition. Or, oh my God, I'm behind. Oh my God, I'm lacking. Oh my God, this battle is at the front lawn of the gates of my queendom and I don't know what to do. Right? That is a problem, right? If that happens to you, that is absolutely positively a problem, right? And let's move to the end for crown. And that is to nurture your relationship with yourself and nurture your relationship with God, right? Nurture your relationship with yourself and nurture your relationship with God. So often we put so much time and energy to everybody else around us in our queendom, because we want to make sure everybody else is happy, everybody else is good, everybody's safe, covered, protected, all that we don't always put ourselves first, right? And I know that this is one that I can also work on more as well, if we're going to be transparent, right? So nurturing your relationship with yourself is key, but also nurturing that relationship with God is also so important. And I don't got to tell you that. You already know that. But here's the thing. Like I said, I don't have to tell you that, but so often we're behind. We say we got a list of 10 things to do. I guarantee you ain't on that list. I guarantee you you haven't put on there that you need to go to that doctor's appointment. I guarantee you ain't put on there I got to have my counseling session. I guarantee you haven't set aside a little bit of money to invest in a coach or to invest in a program, right? Because you're too busy maybe focusing on surviving, or you're too busy focusing on, helping out somebody else or helping out your kid or helping out a family member or a friend, that you don't even realize that in the process of all of this, that you're not taking care of the most important person in your life, and that is you. And it's recognizing that the queen in you, that if she's going to be awakened, right? Because like I said at the start of this, so many of us have that we've either lost hope or we've almost in a way we've kind of dropped the ball, or we've fallen asleep. And a lot of us need to wake up. We need to rise up. We need to remember who exactly that we are. Who were you before, the world told you who you were supposed to be? Who are you before you even began to establish this queendom? And is your queendom built off of false realities, false hope, old ideals, right? Toxic ties, soul ties that need to be broken, that need to be let go? Is your queendom built off of generational curses or cycles that need to be chopped down? Because some of y'all, it might not even be the concept of improving your queendom. Some of us might need to knock down our whole, throw the whole queendom away and start over, right? Just based on what is your queendom built off of? Is it built off of false affirmations, right? And getting pedicures? Because that's not self-care. That is not self-care. That is not what I mean by nurture yourself. When I say nurture yourself, I mean check in on yourself. People say check on your strong friend. You are the strong friend, as far as I'm concerned. So checking in on yourself, holding yourself accountable, taking responsibility, accepting the calling, even though it comes with a cost, right? Refining yourself so that you're becoming the woman that you desire to be. Getting the emotional and mental support that you need, right? So that you're not struggling day by day. Finding the harmony in your life so that you're not always out of whack and you're not always showing up late everywhere that you go. You're not constantly rushing and running around. That's what I mean by nurturing yourself, queen, right? That's what I mean, right? Because if you're constantly rushing around and you're doing for everybody else, How is that crown staying on top of your head? Right? Because you need to be in a place where you're at peace with yourself, but also you're at peace with God. The only way to do that is holding yourself accountable. Like I said earlier, sometimes I do get attitudes with people, and I'm like, I gotta check myself. When I come home, who's checking me, boo? Me. Right? What they say, who want to check me, boo? I'm checking myself. Like, oh, maybe I could have handled that differently. But that's me owning who I am. That's me knowing, okay, maybe I need to work on that. I thought I healed that or I evolved that, but something's still triggering me. That's what I mean by nurturing yourself all up and down here. And that's on the inside. But then nurturing you also on the outside, right? When it comes to what you're feeding yourself. Not just physically, food, obviously, drinks as well, right? But also what you're feeding yourself. What are you listening to? What are you listening to on a day? What are you watching? Right? All of that goes into what you are feeding yourself on a day-by-day basis that allows you to nurture yourself. The more nurtured you are, the more whole, complete you are, the more loved you are, the easier it is for that crown to stay on top of your head and for you to navigate and for you to build a solid foundation so that when ish pops up, that's time for a battle, oh, you can fight. You can absolutely fight because you've already positioned yourself for what it is that could be standing in your way. So you're ready for a battle. Not only are you ready for a battle, but you also are in the process of raising your energy, your vibration to be at a level where you can position yourself to manifest and bring things into your life that you've only desired for years and years and years and years. Right? So things don't come to you, right? And so it's not, oh, once I, find my king to sit next to me on this throne, then I'm going to be happy and loved and complete and whole and all that. No. That ain't the way it works. The way that it's the opposite. Once I am whole, complete, loved, I know I'm a queen. I know I'm fierce. I'm powerful. I got my crown on. That's when you attract the king. It is not the other way around, right? And I think so often that's what we think in our minds. That once we get that thing, we're going to be happy. Once I get that new job, I'm going to be happy. Once I get more money, once I win this lottery, I'm going to be happier. But that's not the way that money flows. That's not the way love flows. That's not the way happiness flows. That's not the way abundance flows. It's the other way around, right? You have to first feel it in order for it to find you. Feel it and it'll find you. Not, oh, go find it and then you're going to feel it. Because you ever notice when you go out and you try to find that man and you try to make it something, you don't feel it because it don't work that way. You got to feel it and then it'll find you because the things that you are seeking, they are also seeking you. So again, let's go back to being crowned, right? If you want to awaken the queen that's inside of you, have the courage to accept the calling. What has God called you to do? He's obviously called you to be a queen, but what else has he been calling you to do that you're ignoring? Number 2 is the R, is repositioning yourself, right, for God's will. What is it that he wants? God, who is it that you need me to become? What is it that you have called me to do? What is it that you want to speak through me? Right? So I had to close my eyes because I'm feeling it, right? What is it that you want to speak through me? What is it that you want to do through me? Who is it that you need? When I walk in this room, who do you need me to become? What do you need me to say to these women in this room? What do you need me to say? When I see my husband later tonight, Lord, what do you want me to speak to him? Right? That's allowing him to work through you. Okay. The O is owning all parts of yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The W is working on inner healing work. And then lastly, the N is nurturing the relationship with yourself, but also the relationship with God. And that also means being authentic with God. Stop hiding stuff from God. Right? You feel like, oh, I can't tell him that. I can't. God is all knowing. He's omnipresent, right? Omni, right? All knowing. Knows it all, sees it all, has heard it all, right? He knew you before you were in your mother's womb. So he knows it all, sees it all. So why not bring it all to him and lay it all down? Lay it all down. Cast those burdens on him. Lay it all down. That is why you are here, right? And the queen knows that. And that's why you can fiercely walk in your calling, fiercely walk with courage, fiercely walk with confidence when you know who you are. You know whose you are. And then you know why you're here, and God reveals to you who you're here to share it with, right? When it comes to your king. So like I said, the process that we go through to awaken is elimination, preparation, and then manifestation is the process in which we flow through, right? And if you, oh, I just saw he already knows. And if you are interested, right, and seeing an awesome example of that, please make sure you go to the Bible and read Queen Esther, right? I share about her all the time because she's my favorite queen. No, you didn't. I'm looking at the comments. Because she's my favorite queen, right? Because she went through that process. She was uncertain. She was unsure. And she had no intentions on even being a queen. She was just simply a peasant. She was a peasant, and God took her from, from the pit, right, all the way up to the palace to become the most beautiful and richest woman in the entire world, right, in Persia at the time. She had no intentions on being no queen. But God took her through the process. But she had to have the courage to accept the calling. And she was terrified and she was scared, but she had the courage, right? So when Esther was brought, right, to the kingdom, right, she was given the opportunity. Welcome. I won't even say she was given the opportunity. She was almost in a way kind of forced into this place where she had to sit before the king, right? After he took her through an entire year, God took her through an entire year of positioning and preparation and purification and beauty treatments, right? He took her through an entire year. She had to reposition herself to God's will. And also in a lot of ways, she didn't have a choice. So if a number of y'all keep not accepting the calling and having the courage, God's going to put you in a position where you're going to kind of be nudged in a stronger way to move into the direction he needs you to, right? Because Esther was kind of taken from her home and she was already an orphan. So she had to work through some identity issues. Come on now, right? And she didn't necessarily want to be and going in front of the king. And she didn't know she was going to go under these treatments where she had to work on the inner healing, but she also had to work on getting her outer self together, right? They had the frankincense, they had the myrrh. They're working on her skin. They're scrubbing her body. She's taking these baths. So she's constantly going through this elimination phase and kind of dying to her old self, if that makes sense. And then once she goes in front of the king, he does end up selecting her, which is very, very divine. I'm in that way. But once he gets in there, she realizes that one of the men in his little council, right? Speaking of councils, one of the men in his councils has a lot of issues and a lot of resentment and just a lot of negativity towards Jews. But little do they know that Esther is really a Jew and her real name is really Hadassah, right? Her real name is not really Esther. That is the name given to her, right? But her real name is Hadassah, and she really is Jewish. So I think it's her uncle or her cousin, Mordecai, that she was living with and being raised by. He kind of sneaks up there to the kingdom and he talks to her. And they realize that this man in the council, the king's council, that he has set out to basically kill all the Jews, right, that are in Persia at the time. And she's aware of this. And at that moment, she realizes in a lot of ways that she has to step into her calling. Because she now knows that now she's the queen. She's in a position of power. And even though she's a queen in their society at the time, women still do not have the right rights and powers of the time. So she knows that going before the king, who she hadn't seen in a couple of weeks, not that she hadn't seen him, but they hadn't really talked and all that in a while, when she knew she had to bring forth this message in front of the king to let him know what someone in his council was setting out to do, which is to kill all of the Jews. So she knew that she couldn't allow that to go down. She knew she couldn't let that happen. So she told her cousin and she told have all of the Jewish people go into a time of fasting and praying, right? And this was 3 days. She did this for 3 days, right? Elimination, preparation, manifestation, right? Threes, right? The number 3, right? So, and for those 3 days, she did that because she had the courage to accept the calling, Within the R, she repositioned herself for God's will. And she knew that if she went into this place of fasting and praying, and she didn't do it alone, she collectively did it with others around her in order to position herself to be even more powerful. You know how powerful that is if everybody is on the same page and y'all are moving towards that agenda. And on the third day, he rose. Right? On the third day, she rose. Manifestation. She went to her king and she informed him, right? And what she was able to do in that moment was stop the annihilation of all of her people, all of the Jewish people, right? That's why Esther is one of my favorites, because she owned who she was. She didn't give away, oh, this is my identity, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. But she first sought counsel from above first. Right? She seek counsel first, right? And when God put her in a position to purify, to prepare for that year, she had the courage. She accepted that call. And even if she didn't want to, she accepted it because she could have been resistant. She could have tried to run away. She didn't do that. But she also didn't know at the time, because she was uncertain, she didn't know what God really was positioning her for on the other side. She didn't know that she would ultimately be the one who would save her entire race of people from being annihilated. Right? So you have absolutely no idea what the trials, what the uncertainty, what the unpredictability of life is guiding you to. You have absolutely no idea what God has for you that is on its way. But you can be certain that there is something that is very beautiful, something that is very divine, something that is purposeful, that has your name on it, right? Esther didn't know her name was going to be there. She didn't know that that's where she was being led to go. She didn't know her name was being changed for a reason. She didn't know she was being purified for a reason. She didn't know that she had to be removed and had to go through elimination and death in order for her to come to the other side. She didn't know what she was being prepared for. She didn't recognize what she was being positioned for. But all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord. You don't always understand what's going on. You might not always agree with how it feels when it's going on, because you know what God is doing. You just don't always like the way it feels, right? You just don't know how. Look at me, I'm getting my words messed up. You don't like the way it feels, right? Because it doesn't always feel good. But when you go through the process and you come out on the other side and you resurrect and you come out a completely different person than you were on the other side. You don't get to resurrect. You don't get to rebirth. You don't get to manifestation without letting something go. You don't get to receive something new without releasing something old. And like I said, if you ain't going to accept the calling, sometimes blessings can pass you by, or other times God needs you, so he will push you gently. Sometimes it might not always feel as gentle, into the space or the place where you need to go. That's why it's so important that as women, we rise up, we wake up, and we remember exactly who we are. That's why it's so important that we wear our crowns and we accept the calling. And we have the courage to do so. And we intuitively feel within ourselves when it's the right time. You'll know when it's the time. You'll know when it's the season of elimination. You'll know when it's your season of preparation. And you'll feel when it is your season of manifestation. You'll know. You will absolutely positively know when it is that time. The key is being able to navigate all of these seasons and having the right tools and having the right strategies. And at this time, I would like to extend an invitation to you. If you're interested in learning the tools and learning the strategies, right? So I've been teaching on these things for the last couple of years. I've taken myself through elimination, preparation, and manifestation. And I can tell you, when I was in elimination, I didn't know what the was going on. Right? Like I said, I wish somebody talked to me like this when I was 13. I had amazing mentors. They were phenomenal. Amazing people that women out in my life. I will say that I did. But if I knew about elimination and preparation and manifestation, girl, I may have done some things differently, right? But all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord. As you move forward and as you navigate and you think back and as you reflect on those things. But as we begin to move into the end of this year, as we begin to move into the new year, I would like to extend an invitation for you for one last time for these last 2 months to take a journey with me And when I say take a journey with me, I mean take a journey like Esther took her journey, right? Through the elimination, through the purification, right? Through the places and the spaces within ourselves, through our mindsets, where we're able to make the shifts that we need to make, where we're able to gain new knowledge and new understanding about just about ourselves as women, right? When I say wake up, when I say remember who you are, that's the journey that I want to take you on. And if you are interested, I would love for you to join us in Powerfully Positioned Women Academy, right? So I made Powerfully Positioned Women Academy last summer. Because I felt it in my spirit to take all of the things that I just shared today and take all of my experiences as well and to create a program that would allow you to go through step by step. So like Esther took an entire year. I'm not asking you to take a year, right? Because it doesn't take an entire year to shift a belief. It doesn't take an entire year to really understand about wealth and abundance. It doesn't take an entire year for you to understand what it really, how you actually really manifest something. It doesn't take an entire year. But what I have done is I've taken it and I've created it into 8 weeks, right? Which will essentially be about 2 months for you to get the shift that you need mentally, physically, emotionally, and especially spiritually. This program is very spiritual in nature, right? It kicks off with a prayer challenge that you have to do so that we're bringing God into the fold, right? Because like I said, this is not about me. This is about what God is doing through me to help you as you navigate on this journey, right? So it's 8 weeks that this program takes you through. And enrollment is now open now through October 31st, which is in the next couple of days, which I'll be closing it for the remainder of the year because I have some other amazing things that are planned out, which I'm excited about for November, December. And I'm also working on my January. Actually, I kind of mapped out the whole next year into 2019, to be honest. So that means I'm going to be wrapping up. That means I'm going to be wrapping up for the final time Powerfully Positioned Woman Academy. So it is an online course, right? And all of the videos, right? There's over 300 hours of training and videos, right? It kicks off, like I said, with a prayer challenge, but it also kicks off with what I call the power positioning principles, right? Which I've already gave you 2 here tonight. One is courage and one is intuition, except I actually go deeper into how you actually cultivate those things, right? There's a total of 5 power principles that every woman needs to know to position herself, right, as a fierce, confident, and powerful woman. The second week, we go into your purpose, right? And also that's something I'm going to be going into more in November. But in there, I go into your purpose because as a woman, we all have been called to do something, right? And believe it or not, you have a brand. Your brand is what people say about you when you're no longer in the room. So are they saying, I want to work with her? Or are they like, she's disorganized, she's unprofessional, she's not really standing in her gifts. She doesn't really recognize that she has a crown. Like she has some good qualities, but she hasn't recognized it just yet, right? And I will say that the women who have went through the program, who had an entrepreneurial spirit, and you don't have to have one to go through it, but I know when they went through it a couple months ago, all of them got new clients just from going through that module alone, that they were able to take on new clients because they were able to reposition themselves in their branding in brand new ways after they went through just that module alone, right? And that's module number 2. For anyone that's interested, right? And then module number 3 goes into abundance, right? And we're not just talking about having an abundance of money, but that is something that we cover. I do cover money. I do cover wealth. But also just being abundant and knowing that you're open to receiving more than you already have. It's a mindset. You know how people say like when you have to change your diet, it's like a lifestyle change. Going through Powerfully Positioned Women Academy is exactly what that sounds like. It is really a lifestyle change. So I'm trying to change the way that you perceive and you understand purpose. I'm trying to shift and change the way you see abundance and money and luxury, right? And luxuriating in different things, right? Because if you want to be abundant and prosperous, you can't be sitting up here with a poverty mindset. You can't be sitting up here with a lacking mindset. And you have to understand money in a new way if you're going to attract new money to yourself. The same is true with module 4, which is a lot of people's favorite. which is sacred relationships. So we talk about the purpose of marriage, we talk about love, but we also do a lot of elimination there, because I believe that a lot of times we're in resistance. A lot of times we haven't released things that we're carrying from our fathers, from other relationships that we've had up until this point. And in order to position yourself for a sacred relationship that is divine, from God, there's a lot that has to be let go to position yourself for what it is to come that's next. Then the next module is my favorite, and that is strengthening your spiritual and emotional foundation. And this is you getting very much in alignment with God. And that's where I go deeper into fasting. I go deeper into ways in which you can connect with God beyond just doing, your normal prayers. We go a little bit deeper than that. And then last but not least is all about manifesting the dream life that you desire and deserve. And there is a course text that we go through, which is all about having it all. And I kind of teach you, how do you actually have it all? When you see people, you're like, oh, she has this and she has that, and she has this going for her. So everybody's idea of having it all is different. Just like everybody's perception of beauty, and wealth and money and all that kind of stuff is different. You at the start are going to determine what it's like for you to have it all. And then I'm going to give you the actual principles, and the ways and the flow, the systematic flow, that you position yourself to actually manifest. As I mentioned earlier, I've been kind of dropping those little nuggets throughout, that you first have to feel it for it to find you. Not that you have to go out and find it, and then you're going to feel excited and happy because now you're married, or now you have the money, or you have this, or you have that. You have to feel it in yourself first before that thing will eventually come to you. Okay. So a part of Powerfully Positioned Woman Academy is that you get 2 calls with me, where we have the opportunity to talk and connect, and you don't have to use those calls right away. In fact, a lot of women, we have an initial call, and then some women will talk to me 2 months later, 3 months later, it might be 6 months later when something pops up or something triggers them. Then they'll want to talk, and I'm absolutely okay with that. I'm not forcing you into a time frame. Use the resource when you need the resource, if that makes sense. Okay. And then lastly, some bonuses. You get a copy of my book. You get a copy of the free companion workbook that goes along with it. You also get access to my Magnetic Women Bootcamp as a free bonus. That's a $300 value. One of my clients I saw, so she finished the academy, and then I saw the other day it popped up that she had logged into Magnetic Women. I'm like, oh girl, you in for a treat. Magnetic Women Bootcamp is a lot of people's favorite. They like the flow of it. They like the way it goes. It's a 21-day program. It's not as intense as Powerfully Positioned Women Academy. That's why it's a bonus. But it's just as impactful. But it focuses just on men, magnetism, and relationships, and shifting that mindset. Right, in 21 days, each day you have to focus on a different part of that, to position yourself for what it is you want and you deserve. So anyway, I say all that to say, if this resonates with you, if anything resonated with you here today, if you've been following me for a long time and things really resonate with you, then it's more than likely time that you step up. It's more than likely time that you wake up. It's more than likely time that you rise up and you consider investing in yourself, right? Your mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional growth is non-negotiable. Your healing is non-negotiable. The only way that we become better is by going deeper so that we can come up higher in who we are, right? And there are some women on here who can attest to that, right? Because they've worked with me multiple times. I will tell you, my clients are recurring. Right? So if somebody works with me one time, I guarantee you they're going to more than likely, I would say 90% of my clients work with me multiple times, whether it's multiple programs or it's one-on-one coaching in some way, shape, or form. Because if you connect with me or you resonate, then obviously we have been called divinely to come together. We have been called to be connected in some way, shape, or form. And why not take that a step further? And join in on the program. If you've taken my last challenge, you have a discount coupon. Please check your email for that. There is a payment plan that is available. It absolutely is an investment. I understand. If you've never done a program in this capacity, I don't mind hopping on the phone tonight or tomorrow or even Wednesday in between me going trick-or-treating with my family. If you want to discuss and see if this is really the right fit, you can go to bit.ly/Power Academy. And you can learn more about the programs. It breaks down every single module. You can see testimonials from women who have already went through the program. It is not for everybody, but if you feel like you are called, if you feel like it resonates with you, if you feel like you need to put that crown on, then it's absolutely something that you want to consider being a part of and joining, so that you can get the tools, the knowledge, the strategy in order to position yourself for what God has next for you, right? Like I said, Esther had no clue why she was being put through that year, that process. And she had no clue that what the promise was coming on the other side. She had no clue that she was stepping a calling in the way that she did. So my hope is that you have the opportunity to step fully into your calling. My hope is that you have the opportunity to become the very essence of abundance and wealth. My goal and my hope is that you get to experience a sacred relationship in this lifetime. And my other goal is that you're able to get the tools that you need so that you can manifest the things that you want and that you desire, right? And I love sharing these things because I know if it's possible for me, I know if it's possible for my clients, I absolutely know that it's possible for you, sis. So I need you to put on your crown. And I need you to rock it proudly. And if you want help stepping into your queendom in a much more fierce way, then I encourage you to join us in Powerfully Positioned Women Academy so that you have that opportunity. You can feel free to email me now if you want to talk about payment plans or if you have any additional questions about the academy or working with me further. Just let me know. I'm more than happy to share. But I also want you to position yourself that when this year ends and the next year begins, that you are ready for any battles that are coming, for anything that is even positive that's coming. Because when we're in, and I was reading this earlier, so I have this book called The Prayer of Jabez, and I've mentioned it on other lives before. Now, what I do is certain books, I go back and I reread them because I need a refresher myself. Even my program, sometimes I go back and I go through them myself because sometimes I need a refresher. When you get so far removed from something, and once you do start to do like Powerful Position Women Academy, or, I'm also enrolled in my own programs. I got my own coach. I just signed up for my own coach. She has a whole new program. Guess who signed up? Me. I think I signed up yesterday morning after I was watching her teach the other day. But anyway, I go back to those things. I go back to my notes. I go back to, and I watch things. So I went back to the book today and I sat there for about 30 minutes and I reread it. And one of the things that it was saying in the book was that the most dangerous time is when you have done some of the healing work and you start to feel better and you feel like you're on top of the world and you're like confident and you're navigating, your crown is on. Because those are the moments where you forget to do your daily confidence routine. Those are the times where you're like, oh, I don't need to go watch Tara's live today, or I don't know if I need that right now. I don't know if I need to sign up for that because everything is going well and I'm enjoying myself. So in the book it was saying those are the times that are the most dangerous because you think you got it going on and you think everything is going well and amazing, but that's the very time when the enemy likes to attack. That's the very time when a battle shows up, when a distraction comes out, when a test pops up, when there's a detour or delay. You're like, oh, hold up. What's going on here? So that's why it's super important that even in those moments, it's super, super, super important that you're still connected to a mentor. It don't got to be me. Trust me, it don't got to be me. But there needs to be somebody that you know, that you like, that you trust, that you can go to. Right. And thank you to my clients that I see that are saying, I highly recommend it. I appreciate it. I know I emailed you both this weekend. And a lot of my clients, especially if they went through, I keep up with my clients. So I will email you out of nowhere. Hey, what's up? Especially if I haven't heard from you, if I haven't seen you in the Facebook group. And I just saw an email earlier from one of my clients who said she was reading something and then she saw my name pop up, right? Because I had emailed her as well. Because it's super important to me. This is not just a program. This is not just a live, right? I actually do care. I actually do want to ensure that my clients are getting what they need. And if you join and you're like, this ain't for me, then that's okay too. And I've had one person do that. I'll be absolutely honest. I had one person do that just because she has so much going on in her life. with her marriage and then her family. And it was just so much going on. And she was like, I just can't keep up, or whatever the case may be. Look, I'm not gonna hunt you down. I'm not gonna run after you like, oh, where's your money? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? I ain't doing that. Because there are plenty of women out here who need the encouragement, who need the support, who need the accountability. There are plenty of women out here that are my women, if that makes sense, who resonate with me. So I don't gotta chase nobody down, right? If this is for you, you will feel intuitively it is for you. If it's not, then that's okay, right? If it's not for you, to harmoniously pass you by. But I do appreciate my clients for coming on here and sharing that you recommend. That means a lot to me to hear that and to see that and to know that that's something that I felt called to do, that I felt led to do after I accepted my calling, which I mentioned at the start of this, that you have to have the courage to do so, right? And I'm now being called, and I feel like God is like, okay, now it's time for you to do this, or it's time for you to do that. And I'm going to give him that yes. And I know there's a cost to that calling, but I ultimately know that's why I'm here. And I will continue to move in that direction. And I want you to be as fiercely confident in yourself. I also want you to be as in tune with your intuition that you can have the courage to make moves and to do things or to say things or to be out somewhere and you feel it in your spirit that you got to go talk to so-and-so and you don't even know you're about to change that person's life, but you feel something drop in your spirit that says, go say hi to that woman or go talk to that man that's over there. And that could be your husband. But if you don't have those things in line and intact inside of yourself, it can be easy to overlook those things and not feel them, know them, or understand them. And I simply want you to be equipped. I simply want you to be educated so that you have a strong foundation, so that you can handle the battles that show up, so that you learn how to grow a counsel around you, so that you don't have to navigate life on your own, right? So that you're not no longer thinking like a peasant and you can move into a queen mindset as you move forward and as you shift and as you grow. Okay. So again, if you're interested, please make sure you go to bit.ly/Power Academy. Learn more about Powerfully Positioned Women Academy. You can pay in full on there, or you can email me if you're interested in the payment plan, or if you get a discounted rate because you just went through the challenge. This time around, I'm also giving out the book from one of our live guest speakers who came in our group last week, and that is Lisa Wright Bryant. I have a copy of her book actually in my work bag, right? Lisa is so amazing. I saw her out. I was supposed to get her book. Somehow I didn't get it. Homegirl came all the way to my job. The office calling me, excuse me, you got a book here. And I was like, a book? And they were like, yeah. And they said the book is called Know You Are Enough. And I said, oh, okay. So she came all the way to my job. Her son goes to my school as well. But she didn't have to come all the way up there and drop off a book for me. And I was like, wow. But she talks a lot about healing things from her childhood. So that's absolutely something I want to give out. Letitia, I know you won. So I will be sending you a copy of her book. But anybody else who signs up for Powerfully Positioned Women Academy this round, you will be receiving a copy of that book as well to help you continue on this journey. Okay. All right. So I'm going to end there. Just a reminder, wear your crown. Wear it, right? I went through the C, the R, the O, the W, the N. If you're just watching now, please make sure you go back and hear all of the letters and what they stand for. Your crown is precious. And when you wake up, you remember who you are, right? And you rise up. You can reign and you can rule over your own domain. But you got to remember to wear that crown. And you got to remember to wear it proudly, right? That is the only way you are going to achieve and to accomplish what God has called you to do and what you have set your mind to do by the end of this year or as you enter into a new year, as we get closer and closer to that time frame. So rise up, reign, remember who you are, and rule over all of this. You are a queen, and never, ever forget that. I love you all, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.